the current moment that we find ourselves in, I think, is not easy. We have seen over the course of the last couple of months a global pandemic just hit all of our families and our communities. And I think that in this moment of disruption, we do what we always do at Year On. We do what we ask all of our participants to do. We reflect on what is going on. We gather as much information and data as we can, and then we plan. And then we follow through on those plans, and we review what we do, and we iterate from there. And you can ask any Year On staff member whenever I do employee onboarding, I always talk about striving to be a full stack organization and making sure that we are doing everything that the fellows are doing. And if we had any current fellows that were in this Zoom right now, they would tell you that we at Year On are obsessed with reflecting and collecting data. We do it after every single workshop. We do it after every program. We iterate after every program that we have to make it better for the next group. And that's exactly what we're doing now. Nothing really has changed in that way. Before I get started on what our plans are for this fall and beyond, I wanted to take a little bit of a step back. And for the new folks in the community who are here in the Zoom room, I wanted to show this mission statement to you to really explain why Year On exists, because I think that it's important for us to take that step back. And you can see here that it says to help young people develop the confidence, clarity, and direction to make strides in effectively navigating their lives. And what's important for me right now, for the Year On team, and I think for everyone in this space, is that no matter what we do come this fall, come next year, that we are still going to make sure that these three pillars that guide us are going to be a part of our programs. Whether that is offline, whether that is online, whether that is some kind of blended experience, this is what we look towards. And on top of that, when we make decisions at Year On, we really are guided by our values. And we have 6 values at Year On, and I think that one of them is really important for this conversation and even just this space that we are sitting in right now, and that is being proactive. We want to make sure that over the course of the next couple of months that we are doing everything in our power to make sure that all of you are getting as much information as possible. And when this all started just around 2 months ago, the team sat down and we said, what 2 pillars are we going to really lean into? And those 2 pillars were transparency and predictability. And you'll be able to see that not all organizations will choose this, but this is something that we have chosen to do based on our values. So we are going to share information with our community as we have it. And we're going to share what we've done to date and how we've done that. And although we may not have complete operationalized details, our goal is really to be as upfront as possible so people can make plans for the upcoming year. I think that that's really important for us. And on that predictability side, we want to remove the least likely scenarios in favor of the ones that are likeliest and the ones that will support our students the most. So I want to talk about what we have done so far, and I'm going to bring us back 2 months, which feels like a lifetime ago, even though it was only 2 months ago. We were really quick to act when this all really started to unfold. We suspended our in-person focus phase at the end of week 9 of 10 and shifted our last week of programming 100% online. I think that San Francisco was way ahead of most metropolitan areas in the United States. They locked down 5 counties well before the statewide order to stay in place. And while our current participants have had their plans for internships and other purposeful pursuits in their launch phases impacted significantly, and they've had to make some significant adjustments to their plans, we're continuing to support them through our sustained coaching that we have as they apply all the skills that they've just learned in our program over the past 20 weeks as we see what we're walking into. Since March also, we have been in conversation with other gap year programs and the folks at the Gap Year Association. We have twice weekly conversations. I know that some of the counselors are in this room. I get to see their faces twice a week, which is really great. And they can attest that, it's a really robust group of people who are trying everything in their power to make sure that the student experience this fall is as great as it can be. For those of you that are unfamiliar, the Gap Year Association is the professional organization and national accrediting body for our industry. They're also empowered by the State Department to do so. And they're the ones that ensure the highest levels of safety and student support during their gap time. And we're proud to be an accredited member. There are many counselors in here that are accredited counselors. And as a program, we have started to build out what our contingencies are going to look like for this fall. So to date, many of you will know that we already extended our deposit deadline. It went from our normal 2 weeks from when a student is admitted to June 1st. Tomorrow, we will announce that that deadline is being extended until July 15th. And we're doing this because we want families to be able to proceed with their gap year planning with as little anxiety and with as much flexibility as possible. And I think that for us, the flexibility is informing our plans for how our programs will start to roll out this fall. So I want to kind of take a look at, we're going to get into a lot of details in a second. I want to just be able to high level talk about what our program offerings are. So the first is our flagship year experience, which we've offered since 2013. It's a 32-week-long program. The next program is our virtual program, which will be 15 weeks over the fall semester. And our third program will also be 15 weeks, and that will be starting in January 2021. And you'll be able to find a lot of this information on our website, but you're going to see, we're going to get into the components of this, but just high level, these are the three programs that we are going to be talking about. So this is the baseline for the baseline gap experience, I would say, at year on. First, just a little background here. We've always offered a program delivered in 3 distinct phases in 3 successive locations, as you can see up here. So this blended model combines the benefits of a traditional immersion experience with a focus on practical skill development. Our participants, you'll hear me calling them fellows. You might hear me calling them students. We call them fellows internally and with them at year on. Fellows work one-on-one throughout the program with a personal coach. They're professionals here in San Francisco who are working in relevant fields and who mentor our fellows as they explore areas of professional interest. I actually see one of our coaches who's joining us today. So thanks for joining. The sequence of the cultural immersion and the service learning abroad, followed by the skill building and professional mentoring here in San Francisco, has provided a lot of our fellows the chance to gain clarity and deepen their self-confidence as they move to make the most of their college experience afterwards. And just for color on that, we've had over 300 students go through our program. 100% of them say that they feel more confident once they leave year on. Now, as a part of our commitment to predictability, this fall, due to the many hurdles already foreseeable in running traditional international education programs, we've decided that we are going to replace the first phase, which is the service learning experience abroad, with one here in the United States. I want to make it clear that we're still going to focus on community immersion, though maybe not necessarily cultural immersion, with a real emphasis on service learning in partnership with what we expect to be 5 to 8 residential volunteer-centered organizations in different regions of the United States. We currently are planning to run phases 2 and 3, which we call Focus and Launch, unchanged, starting in January of 2021. We've already communicated this with all of our confirmed participants. All of them are still on board with us for this domestic piece. We will be announcing this to the broader community over the course of the next couple of weeks. Okay, so if you noticed on the previous slide, our program was scheduled to begin in mid-September, but we have decided to push that back to essentially buy time while the world, how do I put this, attempts to normalize, I guess. We will be adding a new module that we're super excited about. It will be a 5-week pre-phase that will take place online and allow us to do some enhanced programming in a number of ways. I think first, this allows us to extend our community formation process, deepen a lot of the relational connections across the entire cohort. It will also allow us to introduce a lot of the systems and tools and just general structure that we use at Year On and throughout the program so that the fellows can hit the ground running. It will also allow us to dig into an expanded set of content that we're super excited about that will help us frame the entire gap year experience and connect it to the college experience awaiting students afterwards. And for those of you that are familiar, I know that counselors, a lot of this content will revolve around what it's like to build your value set and to define your life, to design your life, and just to better understand what your strengths are, as a person. And to reiterate, I think that it's important to just say this one more time. This allows us for additional time to plan for an in-person explore phase to begin in October domestically. So this is it. This is the new configuration for our program come this fall. This is now going to be the flagship experience for the 2020-21 year. What was 3 phases is now 4 phases. The 5-week pre-phase is an enhancement that we think will add significant value and a buffer in many important ways for the loss of the international experience during Explore. And I know that someone asked us up front, what is the cost of this new program going to be? And this cost will stay the same. It will be $24,000 for our year-long experience, even with the added phase. Now, I know many of you are probably going to have some questions about our change in the Explore location, so let's talk about those a little bit. So I would say that our goal right now is for these domestic locations is to replicate as many of the components of our Explore as possible. Let's see. I missed someone on the mute. All right, sorry about that. And for us, what that means is a focus on service with an organizational partner that has made a sustained commitment to the community where it is operating. These types of programs, even abroad, give our fellows a chance to immerse in purposeful work and a really intentional community, which is super important to us. That is also an important backdrop for the reflection work that we ask our fellows to be doing during Explore. At the same time, we are aiming to have our domestic locations in areas of the country that maintain low numbers for coronavirus infections. We want to work with established partners that have proven health and safety protocols and are confident in their ability to safely operate this fall. I will say that these 3 partnerships, we feel confident enough right now to discuss some of the details. That being said, we are still working with several others and in a similar fashion, announce them when we're closer to being finalized with those partnerships. I just want to be clear here. The discussions of these partnerships are all still in progress, but I am confident that the details will come together over the next couple of weeks, and as soon as they do, we will publish them on our website. That wraps up the new configuration and details for our year experience. So that first flagship program that we spoke about. Okay, so next, we are going to talk about the second program option, which is our newest, something that I'm really excited about. And it's our virtual experience, and this will be 15 weeks over the fall semester. So with this program, our goal is to replicate as many of the components of the flagship experience as possible, but in a virtual setting. So this program will combine our Wayfinding curriculum and our skill building workshops in a cohort structure, all online. Fellows will participate in a virtual volunteer project through one of our partners during the first 5 weeks of the program, and then they will participate in an externship with a company in an industry that they are excited about. We're aiming to have virtual volunteer projects in 5 different fields: health, education, finance, environment, and government. And our externship partners will be everything from marketing to venture capital to education firms. So we're trying to make this really robust. We want to make sure that this experience is not just online in a Zoom classroom and all you do is watch a person on a screen. We want it to be cohort-based. We want students to gain practical skills from it. We want them to feel like they're giving back. We want all of the components of our year-long program in a virtual setting. It's important to note that students are also going to work with a coach in this program. So coaching has been, I would say, the defining hallmark of our program since our founding back in 2013, and it will continue to be the backbone of this virtual program, like all of our experiences. This program is going to cost $12,000, and you can watch for more details as we make a lot of updates to the website kind of later this month. Okay. And finally, we are going to talk about our third offering, which is our semester experience. So this program retains the entire in-person focus phase and adds what we expect will be a 5-week international explore phase in the spring. And for those that are unfamiliar, our current international destinations are Tanzania, Mexico, India, Indonesia, and Peru. And the cost of this program is $19,000. While a lot of information, I'm going to just keep rolling here. What I'm really excited about is no matter what program students are enrolled in this year, it will be an option for fellows in any of the programs to receive up to a full semester of transferable academic credit. And I will say that this is one of the benefits of our accreditation through the Gap Year Association, which is in partnership with Portland State University. I want to note here that students are not automatically enrolled in the academic portion of the coursework, but they will have an option to enroll. Counselors will understand kind of the complexities of this. But I just want to say, you know, for parents or for students who are thinking about this and are like, this is so awesome, I want to say, yes, it is so awesome. And I also just want to have a disclaimer here that, you know, any academic credit that is earned is not automatically transferable to a student's home institution. So students, you know, or parents of students, before you elect to enroll for credit, we will require that you connect with your chosen institution to ensure that the credit will ultimately transfer. And we have some experience in this, so we can help you navigate the situation. It's not just, you know, you take it here and you can have it at your home institution. Okay, so we just went over all of those programs. I know that it might be a little bit difficult to keep straight, and I know that I mentioned this in my email that I sent out, that we will have a video recording of this, so you'll be able to digest it, and we'll be updating the website over the course of the next couple of weeks. But I just wanted to put this all in one place so folks can kind of see what we were just talking about and how that, you know, how that looks in the year format, the virtual, the semester experience. So everybody knows the year experience and the virtual experience will both start on August 31st, 2020. And our semester experience will start on January 10th. Again, all these dates will be up on the website. You'll be able to see them, but just for, you know, for clarity, just right now, because I just threw a lot of information in you, I thought that this would be helpful. We wanted to create an option for students who didn't want to miss out on time abroad. So what we've tried to do, we've created this modular add-on so that, you know, well into the spring, hopefully the world has moved out of the acuteness of the pandemic and into a time when we have a vaccine or incidences of infection are rare, that our students can elect to add on the international education experience that so many people seek out a gap year for. And we are still ironing out all the details of this, but we expect the price of the 10-week add-on to be around $5,000 and for the 5-week to be around $2,500. Okay, so I'm gonna shift gears just a little bit to some safety stuff. I think that it's important for us to talk a little bit about how we are going to be making decisions moving forward for this fall. So right now we are following CDC guidelines and working closely with our partners to make sure that health and safety indicators are the primary guide for any program adaptations or student experience. So this is what that currently looks like. And again, as we have more information, we will share it with you, but this is what is guiding our thinking right now. So what does that start to look like? So you can see here the domestic partnerships that we have. They go off of the normal, reduced, limited, and restricted. So we've already said that we are pulling back from international. We are looking for a normal domestic explorer, which means that we will run it just like we would run normally. So students will live in community with one another. It's as if travel and as if we were back a year ago and we weren't living in this time, or if the CDC and state governments say that it is okay to be operating as we used to. If it is reduced, you can see here we have a plan put in place for what reduced looks like for us. These are plans that we have started to work with our partners on to make sure that, you know, everything from where students will be living, how they live in community, all the way to what their interaction will be with one another and what the community will look like. So this goes, you know, there's a lot of stages of this. We are trying to bucket them into, you know, larger terms that we're using: normal, reduced, limited, and then restricted if we get to a point where, you know, we are in shelter in place come the fall, or there is a reason why we are not allowed to travel whatsoever. We are going to be looking at a way for us to virtually volunteer with these organizations. You know, I know that this is one of the drawbacks of sharing information with folks incrementally, as we are doing right now. I think that we don't have all the details operationalized yet, but I thought that it was important for us to at least share our thinking, because I think that that can inform, you know, other decisions that folks are making. And if you ultimately are not choosing a year-on program, if you're a counselor, I want you to be able to have some kind of framework to be able to back into, if it's, you know, if it's a part of this, if it's the whole of this, but you can at least see where our minds are at. Okay, so that's what I have here on our programs. The last thing that I just want to talk about is a little bit about deferring. For those that haven't been sitting in on Gap Year Association calls, I know that counselors, you are probably being inundated with this, and every single college, you know, has a different response to this, unfortunately, right now. For the parents and students that are on the call, I just want to highlight some pieces for you. First, deferring right now is on a case-by-case basis with your university. Some universities are saying, you know, we're not going to ask you any questions. If you need to defer this fall, awesome, you can defer. Some universities are saying, if you already had planned to defer before coronavirus, you can still defer. Some universities are saying, if you're going to try and defer because of coronavirus to take a gap year, we're going to say no to you. So you need to be just aware of this, and we have a resource for you, and we will send this out, but it's a deferral guide for you to really start to put together, you know, think about how you are going to craft your messaging to your university if you are looking to take a gap year. And to take that even one step further, we actually have created a tool for you to get a personalized deferral request letter. We've created it for you, so you just tell us who your university is, and we'll find a contact person there for you, and we'll put together a letter that we will send to you that you can then just kind of wax a little bit for what works for you, and then you can send it off to your university yourself. So again, we'll send this out. This has been a part of some of our newsletters that we've sent out already. So if you want to take advantage of it, please do, because we're, you know, and if you need other resources from us, just shoot us an email. Shoot us an email to hello@yearon.com. We are totally happy to help in any way that we can. Okay, I will say, impressed with myself that I was just able to get through all of that information in 30 minutes. I don't think that I held up my end of the bargain of not speaking like a New Yorker. I definitely just went a mile a minute, but I was concerned that I might not be able to get through it. So with that, I think that we have a lot of, I think that we have some questions that are starting to roll in here. So I'm going to just, I'm going to ask some of these, and it looks like I've got a private message first that my camera isn't on. Okay, great. Thank you for letting me know about that. you prepare for all of these things in Zoom, and then, these small things happen. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so the first question is related to the domestic phase of the year program. Are there size limitations or restrictions? Wondering if you expect enhanced demand given that college-bound students will now ask for gap years off. Great question. So we're already seeing enhanced demand. We're seeing way more demand than we've ever seen before. And we are trying to prepare for that as much as possible. I will say that historically, we have had, our largest cohort was 50 students. We usually send 10 students per international location and then bring all students to San Francisco. We are going to keep our eyes out on what this is going to look like come this fall. And that's why you can see our 3 locations that I shared with you earlier, that are the domestic locations. That's the indicator, because that's how many people we currently have that we have to serve. So we're looking at 30 students right now, but like I mentioned, we're looking to target between 5 and 8, and it could be way more than that by the time this fall comes around. One of our staff members, Lucy, who's here on the call, all she does is work around the clock tirelessly to reach out to people to try and sign these partnerships. So we're trying to make it as robust as possible. We are definitely seeing increased demand, and as the demand comes in, we're just trying to make sure that we're prepared for it and give the students a menu of options. But great question. If a student who has deferred enrolling in a school of their choice opts for credit, does it jeopardize their standing as a freshman and therefore require the student to reapply as a transfer? Great question. This goes back to what I just mentioned about deferrals. The answer is it could. So this is why it's really, really important that before you opt in for credit, and again, if you take a year-on program, that does not mean you are going to be automatically enrolled in for credit. You will actually have to press those buttons yourself, and we will work with you on how to do that. But before that happens, we will make sure that you are not considered a transfer student if that is not what you want. Can one just do focus? This is a great question. So currently, the answer to that is no. We are working right now to operationalize this. So hopefully I can get that answer to be yes over the next couple of months. Because the focus phase overlaps the semester with the year program, they both happen between January and March. We are trying to make a modular phase that allows students to just opt in for that focus phase. So if they want to do something else in the fall, or they want to do something following where we usually have international explore, we can make that happen. So stay tuned for that. I hope that I'll be able to announce over the next couple of months that we're going to make that happen. As an enrolled student, when can we request our location for Explore? And when do students have to decide whether or not to do the add-on? Awesome question. As soon as we sign those partnerships, all of our confirmed students, you'll be the first to know, because you will get first pick. The way our admissions work is rolling. So based on when you became a confirmed student, that is the order of choice that we work on. So you'll find out soon. And then when will you have to decide on whether or not to do an add-on? That's a good question. It will most likely be sometime in the fall. So you will already be in the program, and then we will ask for that. For the year-long students, and because your program goes all the way until June 18th, you'll probably have a lot of time. We have a lot more flexibility with our international partners because we hold spots. So we'll be able to work with you on that. For the semester program, you'll have a shorter time frame only because the program is shorter. Okay, any other questions for me? I also got to thank you, and you bet. Have the details been announced for the domestic program? We went over them briefly. I'm not sure when you came in the call. We did go over some of the details. We have not said who the partners are yet, but we are starting to firm up all the details right now. So we have 3 different partners that we're working with. One is in Pennsylvania, one is in Florida, and one is in Hawaii, and in different Explore projects based on the location. But as we have everything finalized, we will share them. You bet. Is the International Explore add-on after the year-long launch phase 5 weeks or 10 weeks? That's going to be 5 weeks. Good question. It's going to be a 5-week long for the year-long program, just because if we do 10 weeks, that will start to cut into your freshman year first semester. Are you using CDC guidelines but not state guidelines? They may be different. So we're using a combination of the two. So we are looking at CDC to inform our higher level our higher level decision making, and then we're looking at state guidelines for what they, if the domestic explorer location is in that location, we are then looking to state guidelines to see what is appropriate there. I forgot that I've got a question slide. Good question. Asked, is a confirmed student one who is admitted or one who has paid a deposit? A confirmed student is somebody who has paid a deposit with Year On. Do you have a commitment from organizations that kids can do an online internship if necessary? So let me just quickly clarify. So because we have 3 programs, the virtual experience will include an internship, and organizations have committed to those already. So students, no matter what in their virtual experience with us, they will have an internship. Right now, we're also working, just because of the environment right now, to add something similar to our year-long program. Just a little bit of history here. We used to require that students do internship in that 3rd phase, and some students didn't appreciate that we had that portion because they had other things that they wanted to do, including apply for college or get a full-time job. So we relaxed that a lot, but we are looking to have some kind of fail-safe for students come next spring in case we find ourselves in a similar situation that we are in now. Again, that's a big learning from this cohort that we just had. Can you provide more details on what students will be actually doing and learning in the Wayfinding online program? So I mentioned this kind of briefly. So Year On's curriculum currently, I would say one of the biggest challenges of trying to create a curriculum for high school graduates is the kind of push and pull of what our year-on staff wants to have in a 10-week curriculum. 10 weeks is not a long period of time. And there's always this back and forth between, should we focus on wayfinding for 5 weeks and then skill building for 5 weeks? And it always goes back and forth. And what we've really kind of come to is we usually do wayfinding for just about a week, and everybody just says it's just not enough time. So wayfinding, what that looks like for us is thinking about who you are and what you want to do. And we haven't developed that curriculum in that 5-week place. It's not quite there yet, but I will say a lot of the elements that are coming together with that are around designing your life. So you can think about, first, what is your mindset? How are you thinking about, that you do not have a fixed mindset? You should lean into a growth mindset, and how can you subscribe to that? Well, we think about, how do you set goals? How do you design your own life? How do you think about your strengths and what you're interested in? So we want to do a lot of this direction finding with students, and currently we are building out what the scope and sequence of that looks like. And as soon as we have that, we will be sharing more information on the site about it. When will your next update about the program adjustment be? A webinar? So we will host these webinars as soon as we have more information about them. I would say that the more likely scenario is that we're publishing stuff up much faster through our email correspondence with everyone. We're currently sending out weekly emails to people. We're keeping our website updated with our COVID-19 updates. You can see that right on our homepage. As soon as we have some material changes that we need to share with folks, I will do something else like this webinar. What will be the deadline for the spring program? The deadline for the spring program is usually in late November. So we try and give a lot of flexibility, and I will say that we do that because we work with a lot of students during the springtime who have gone through a semester of college and then have decided that it's not for them. And it usually takes right after Christmas, right after Thanksgiving holiday, when they sit down their family and they say, not for me, I'm dropping out. And that's usually a program that attracts that kind of student. So we try and make that timeline as close to the program as possible. These are great questions. No worries about being late. We're
sorry, Charlie. We all were sitting around, and it's such a beautiful day finally in New York that we lost track of the time.
That's okay, John.
We'll see the sun. It has to be 4 o'clock here. So I guess you went over contents. Is that correct?
Sorry, John. One more time. You got muted a second. Everybody in here right now is muted.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Pop that question in the Slack, in the chat box for me.
Roger that.
So the age range for our program, great question. So we work with students who are in between 18 and 21 years old. I would say a majority of our students are straight high school graduates, so they have not had any college experience yet. That being said, we have this last cohort had someone who completed their junior year in college and wasn't sure if they wanted to complete their final year. That was in our program. So we really look at that college age range. Of course, everybody still has to go through our application, and we want to make sure, you know, some of the content that we're teaching, some juniors in schools or seniors in college might have already gone through that. So we just want to make sure that it's not a repeat for them. We want to make sure that they're actually going to gain value from the program. When do you expect to lock in the Domestic Explorer locations? As soon as possible. You know, like I mentioned, we are kind of in the last, I would say, stages with 3 of them right now. But of course, just every day is kind of like a moving target. So we want to make sure that we're just being very intentional about this, that we're not trying to rush, you know, the partners or our decision making. But again, as soon as we know, we'll share them with you. John, yes, we did go over some contingency plans. I'm happy to jump on a call with you if you want to go through those. If not, we'll definitely send that webinar over. Is the International Explore phase completely off the table for the winter, fall, or is New Domestic Explore an alternative? Good question. So I mentioned this in the beginning. Our year-long program is now, our flagship program is now starting out domestically. It will not be starting out internationally. We have definitively made that call. That being said, we are leaving room for an option for students to add an international explore phase at the end of the program if they still want to get that international experience that a lot of students look to a gap year for. What is it like to reapply to college while in the program? Is there support? Good question. We had several students do that in this last cohort. We actually contract with some college counselors who help our students while they're in the program. I think that a lot of times families and counselors will both ask, well, the reason why I'm taking a gap year is to understand what I want to do and where I want to go. So we have that support. I say that, and you know, our counselors will work with you to make sure that you stay on track for getting your applications in. That being said, there is no other time like your senior year when you are surrounded by a whole bunch of people who are doing the same thing to get all of those materials together. I think that the students that go through this, it's definitely a possible thing, but there is a little bit of friction because you have to reach out to your high school, you have to get a lot of transcripts, you have to get letters of recommendation. So we always say to folks, like, try and get all of that stuff as soon as possible and prepare for it, even if you don't know exactly where you're gonna go. Will students be guaranteed to get the service work location they want? Good question. This is always on a rolling basis for us here at Year On. So just like we used to do with our International Explore locations, it's based when students deposit with us, then they get the menu of options that we have in front of us in terms of the locations that are available, and then we look at capacity, and then from there we look at the service learning projects. The service work is not based on what the student wants, but what the community needs. So we are very upfront about that from the beginning. But again, it is on a rolling basis. That being said, all of the things that we outline. So, you know, for example, in one of our locations, and I'll just talk about prior experience, you know, for example, in Bali, we had everything from teaching English to teaching digital literacy skills to environmental conservation. We were able to get students to into all of the placements that they wanted into their first choice. But we usually ask students to give us our top 2, and we try and get them into one of those. Have I exhausted all of you? It's so nice seeing everyone's background. You know, San Francisco, you know, we are shelter in place, and I did decide right before this to go outside for a walk around the block, and I said, wow, it's like 70 degrees here in San Francisco. It's a beautiful day. So it's nice to see that many of you are also experiencing the same thing. All right. Well, I'm going to stay in here. You know, if some of you have some questions and you're just thinking about them, you are more than happy to, you know, send them my way. I'm totally happy to answer questions. I'll wait around for another 5 or 10 minutes. But if not, thanks so much just for coming out this evening and spending your afternoon. I know that sometimes like this isn't great information that we have to hear. One of the things that we teach our students is how to have a difficult conversation with people. And while I know it was a difficult decision for us to make to switch up our domestic explorer location, I'm also super confident in our team, and I'm really excited for some of the programs that we're rolling out this fall. So thanks for bearing with us. If you have any other questions, shoot them our way. Let us know what they are. We're happy to work with you. We're just trying to be here. Again, think about that transparency and that predictability. We want to make this as easy as possible. We know that it's a lot, but know that you've got some support and that we're with you. And we will definitely be sharing these. We'll definitely be sharing this presentation afterwards. Zoom usually loves to take, you know, like 24 hours to compress this gigantic file of me speaking at my New Yorker minute. So just give us about 24 hours and we will definitely send it out. If we don't get to send it out because it hasn't compressed in time, definitely look for it in our newsletter on Monday.